already quoted once today of Politico, putting it this way, quote, "What a role reversal. After spending 2 months in the basement while Trump dominated COVID-19 coverage, Biden takes center stage amid race protests while POTUS relinquishes the head of state spotlight." Let's bring into this conversation Stan Stein, politics editor for the Daily Beast, and former RNC chairman Michael Steele. Michael Steele, you've had some tweets in the last 40 hours that have stopped me in my tracks. What's on your mind, my friend?
A lot. As a black man, as a black man, having watched this video, the murder of Mr. Floyd, and thinking of my own sons and literally crying in that moment, those tears became one of anger at the response, at the lack of response. And I think the country right now is sort of bound up in all of those emotions at once. And they're looking for clarity. We are looking for clarity. We can't separate ourselves and say, well, these folks over here have this issue, that's their problem. That seems to be the way the president wants to approach it, whether it is blaming the governors because they haven't been as aggressive as he would be. And I would dare say he wouldn't be that aggressive because the circumstances don't call for it. The circumstances call for something else. And I think what you see in Joe Biden is that something else. The problem is he doesn't have the benefit of the office. He can't command the bully pulpit the way Donald Trump can. But I think the American people, Nicole, are rationalizing and understanding finally exactly what they have in the man in the office. That the word empathy and Trump do not go together in the same sentence. And so their expectations, I think, have been lowered, which creates an opportunity.
I want to hear more about, I think, what you're hinting at, and for you to just say so plainly, I think Donald Trump has succeeded in sometimes making us question what we see with our own eyes. I mean, what we saw with our own eyes was the murder of George Floyd on the tape under the knee of a white police officer while 3 of his colleagues watched. Why don't we just reflexively say what we see anymore? I mean, that seems to be, in some ways, Donald Trump's greatest advantage, to have succeeded in making us doubt what we see with our eyes, what we hear with our ears.
I'm so glad you asked that question because I answered it today for a reporter who inquired of the same question. And the answer is that for some reason, there's still this expectation that Donald Trump, in a moment like this, is going to respond like Barack Obama or George Bush or Bill Clinton or Jimmy Carter or some other president. That expectation that we have that, in a national crisis, whether it's COVID-19 or now the racial tensions that have arisen out of the murder of George Floyd, that the president is going to step into that and he's going to calm the fears and the concerns. He's going to support those on the ground who are trying to mitigate against the rioting and the damage that's being done there. And yet what you have is a president who retreats to his bunker out of fear of what? I don't know. He doesn't step into that leadership. He repels from it. And yet we still expect him to behave differently. This president has shown us who he is. He has told us over and over again what he believes. He does not believe in the ideals of this country. That was expressed at Charlottesville. Why do you think you're going to get a different narrative today? He watched a young white woman run over by a Nazi-loving, fascist, card-carrying idiot and said, hey, there are good people on both sides. And he looks at the death of a black man on the street under the knee of a white officer, and he calls those who cry out against that pain, against that event, he calls them thugs. So you tell me what different narrative you're going to get. You're not getting a different narrative. The man is who he is in that White House. And to the point that Eddie Glaude made earlier, and the point that so many on the streets are making now, it's going to be up to Americans to either see themselves reflected in that or not.
Michael Steele, I'm going to put you on the spot because I feel on the spot. What role do former Republicans have everything you said is clear as day. And you're right. This is the moment that most that is most recognizable in his reaction to Charlottesville, seeing good people on both sides. Where are the, and I'm tired, I'm done, I'm not asking where are the elected Republicans, but where are the former elected Republicans? Where are the people with kids? Where are the people who worry about the safety of their own kids, of your kids? I mean, I thought that one of the most searing public pronouncements of the weekend was the mayor of Atlanta saying she told her kids to get home. Eddie Glaude talking about worrying about his son's safety, and you've talked about worrying about your kids. I mean, where are the other human beings that used to call themselves Republicans?
I don't know. I'm like you, Nicole. I just don't. I can't rely on that. That cavalry's not coming. That cavalry's not coming. We're on our own out here, folks. We got to band our arms together and strip the labels away, strip the BS off our backs. And we have to look each other in the eye and go, this ain't us, or this is us. And be reconciled with that. Because if you're expecting that some white knight, I dare say, on some super stallion comes charging in to save the day in the black community, or to save America from the fate of racism and the like, that's not happening. So I've given up waiting for those folks to show up. Because they're not. They weren't there. They weren't there when I was chairman. They weren't there when Ken Mehlman was chairman and tried to move that needle in the black community. They weren't there for Ed Gillespie when he did the same. So for inside the political structure to expect something different, that's not happening. I'm listening to the likes of Tucker Carlson and others, going after black leadership that's calling what it is, what we all see in front of us. The racism that is existent right now in front of our eyes, and somehow, as black people, we're supposed to ignore that if we're Republicans. Bull on that, that's not happening. And so I'm not expecting these folks to come charging to save me and mine, or you and yours. You and I, Nicole, are going to have to do that. Sam, you and me, we're going to have to do that. Those protesters on the street, all of us together are going to have to do that. That's how this changes. Because we got to stop pretending and thinking someone else is going to solve this problem.
Sam Stein, take the baton from our friend Michael Steele.
It's impossible to follow that. Michael actually have talked about this and how it impacted his own Senate race back in 2006. So he speaks from experience that I will never know, and so I don't have anything more insightful to offer. I will note this. I couldn't agree more that anyone who is expecting Trump to fill some sort of presidential void should probably not hold their breath. At this juncture, we know what we're getting. The question I've had, and I've been trying to explore all day, is if he's even thinking of trying to make some sort of moderation or tonal shift or to broaden scopes, because this is a guy who has lived with and pursued the politics of grievance since he entered the political arena. He has kept to sort of a safe space media ecosystem, never really challenging himself to talk to different audiences. And this is the type of situation that really calls out for that. It calls for reaching out to CBC members, to activists, to protesters even. And instead what we got from Trump is he had a phone call with governors today where he chose to berate them for being weak and not arresting enough people. So it's very clear that he doesn't really have the appetite to move the needle in another direction, that what he has done so far, which is grievance and resentment politics, is really in his DNA and is what he's going to pursue going forward. And I think anyone who has any expectations otherwise is pretty foolish at this juncture.
I mean, Sam Stein, it's a perfect place to stop. It's in his DNA, and as Michael Steele points out, the question in November is it in ours? Is it in all of ours?
Yes.
So it's on the ballot.
Yes.
Sam Stein and Michael Steele, never enough of you two. Please come back. I just wonder if I could have talked to you guys for another hour. That does it for our